why that's happening.
Is Matt in here?
No, I don't know why that's happening because then if I repost it, we're not going to be able to see you.
Do you want me to start it and invite you?
Do you know how to reshare it?
Yeah, I can save the recording and send it to you. I've done it before.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You can't see any of us? Like, you can't.
Yeah, Matt can't join either. All right.
Dude,
Give me a
Laura's
minute.
actually going to see both of us.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter then. Um, if they can see us, I guess that's all that matters.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. Let's see if we can get Matt on here. Matt, can you send a request? Just hit the little request thing instead of me trying to send you a request. That will probably work. Then we should be all right. We'll give it a go. Come on, Matt. Request. There we go. Let's try that. Let's go live. There we go.
Holy shit.
Well, see, I can see Matt on my screen, but not Trey.
Matt, can you see me?
Yeah, I see all of you.
Oh.
That's so weird. Huh.
But,
Okay.
but when I'd click your request to join, it just wouldn't do anything. It just sat here.
Yeah, Trey got on fine. It's just I can't actually see him on my screen. I can hear him, but I can't see him.
But you can
It's
see
like
me?
weird.
You can
Yeah.
see me?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
just
all.
fine.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. Nice shirt, though, by the way.
Yeah, I gotta grow.
Is
I
that
gotta grow into it a bit.
is that a sweatshirt?
No.
Oh, it's a t-shirt. Yeah,
Yeah.
couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Right
Am I
on.
the only one? What am I the only one wearing?
Probably
What do
the
you
only
got?
one.
What do you got
Me?
on? Yeah.
This was a gift from the guys in the Netherlands that I went to the seminar with. They're Evolving Physiques, like their
Okay.
brand.
Yeah.
They got that logo on the back.
Okay. That's cool. What are you rocking, Trey? Is that a Cubs shirt? What's that say?
Nah, CPPS. It's one of Joe DeFranco's shirts.
Oh, Joe DeFranco?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. How are you guys doing? I haven't talked to you. People probably think we talk a lot, but we don't.
Yeah, we got stuff to do.
Yeah. We're like coaching and stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Michelle gave Evolving Physique shout out. Right on. Okay, sweet. So we'll get on going. Guys, we are going to do another Q&A today. So we did that the last time was probably a few weeks ago or so. We're trying to keep up on these. I'm thinking if we can keep up on them like once a month, that would be good.
That'd be great. Once a month would be great.
That might be wishful thinking, but we'll try.
Nah, we can do once a month.
We'll give it a go. But yeah, we'll field any and all questions today. I know that Matt, you were at the Olympia, and that was a long week. You were there Monday to Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was in Florida, though.
Yeah, hour and a half north of where I live. I mean,
So.
I guess I could have drove back and forth, but
Man.
not if you want to do this right.
Right. Yeah.
Just because I had people competing. Well, the show amateurs started on Tuesday.
Right.
So I had a girl Tuesday, a guy Wednesday, and then Brooke on Friday.
Right.
And then I was just going to drive home Friday, honestly, Friday night, just because I wanted to get home. But I ended up having fun, so I stayed.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah. I actually had fun at a bodybuilding show. I had lost I lost a lot of fun and love for bodybuilding shows, but like it kind of like came back.
You're like, oh, this is all right. The show
Yeah.
was interesting. The show, the
Did you watch it, or did you just look at pictures?
I was gonna get, I thought about getting the live stream, but I guess like the quality of the live stream was horrendously bad
It
as
always
far as
is.
like lighting.
Dude, it always is. And then they're always like moving the camera from person to
So I'm like,
person, like zooming in on a body part. Like just leave it on so I can see all the people.
yeah.
I
So
don't
I decided
I
against.
don't want to look I don't want to look at Andrew Jack's balls, like they zoom in and like they're showing like a tibialis, like, ooh, look at that, like anyway.
You can see every hair on Bob Chick's mustache.
Yeah.
I don't even know
Man.
if he has a mustache, but anyhow, yeah,
No, but it was actually pretty fun. So you saw Hottie walk off and everything. It's
yeah,
it's shitty that that's all everyone's talking about. So Derek wins the Olympia, and everyone's just talking about Hottie walking off stage, and Derek's getting death threats, and then his Instagram's deleted. That is insane.
yeah. It's crazy. And then I also saw there was the controversy about the big like abscess looking lumps in his lats. I'm like, well,
They were perfectly symmetrical, though.
yeah, I noticed that.
So
I'm like, I don't know.
if that's what it is, they did a damn good job of making it perfect on both sides.
Right. Right. Fair play, I suppose. He won the Olympia, so
Yeah,
whatever.
it's like, also, who cares? You think he's the only one injecting his lats?
Oh, dude. Yeah,
If
let's be
people
real.
if people only knew, and that's the thing too, is you can be that good, and the first thing people point out is the things that are wrong.
Right. Yeah. Which you're like as close to perfect as you could possibly get,
Yeah,
beyond anyone's wildest comprehension.
yeah. But I see these two bumps under his armpits, and it
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty obnoxious. Then the Instagram thing was pretty obnoxious. But
I mean, damn. Yeah. So, anyways, did you think Derek should have won, or you think Hottie should have won?
um I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know how close it was, but people are like the talking about it. I guess it depends on like how you judge it. If you're judging pose for pose, you're like body part for body part. It's like we can make an argument. Everyone's like Derek was, Hottie was more conditioned. Derek was more conditioned, but the only people saying that were focusing on one thing. Like Derek has glutes in all the time,
Yeah.
and his back double was nuts.
Yep.
But still, just like last year, maybe a little bit less than gap than last year. Hottie was harder from the front, like density,
Like always. Yep.
density wise, like most muscular, even front double bicep, like that upper pec, anterior delt, like area is just like bigger and more dense.
Yep.
Quads are still bigger than Derek's, even though Derek's have definitely come up. So I don't know. Side shots are probably a toss up.
Yeah.
I would say.
I wasn't upset about it. I mean, I could
No,
have seen a case for Hottie winning. Hottie has that gnarly sharpness and gradiness through the front that Derek doesn't have. That's really what separates them. Is Derek has that crispness through his glutes and hamstrings that Hottie has through his whole body. But Derek's glutes and hamstrings are more crisp than Hottie's. But then, Derek's most muscular, and then through the pecs and the abs and stuff doesn't have the same look as Hottie. But should he lose because of that? I don't know.
Right. I don't know. I'm not a judge. I'll never be a judge.
Yeah. It's very, very close. Someone asked a good question in there about them going on so late and circadian rhythm. That's absolutely a problem. Yes.
Yes. So they asked, what's your thoughts on the late show time messing with circadian rhythm and water retention specific? So water retention specifically, when did they go on, Matt? What time?
Little after 10 o'clock.
For prejudging, they did.
Yep.
Was it 10 o'clock? Was it 10 o'clock Eastern?
Yep. So if you look, I would say pretty much every single one of them was a little bit off. And then on Saturday night, I think everyone was a little better because they were up at 7-7.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, general thoughts there is that you have to, the only way that you can really work around that is you're not going to look like you do in the morning. I don't think no matter what you do, you're not. However, it's something that you probably have to practice. You probably have to pre-plan and practice and get an idea what that looks like because like everyone's peaking, not everyone, but a lot of people are peaking based on night before, morning of look, and then if you've never done that before, which most of those guys have, but also if all of them that have had to like minus Derek and Hottie and a few others, all of them that did qualifier shows had morning prejudgings. So they really had no practice with it. And even now, there's really no other instances of that because all the national shows are day of. Like, remember when nationals used to be 2 days? So the guys would, like, men's bodybuilding wouldn't go on until God knows when at night. And bikini would be like fucking 1 o'clock in the morning, half the time. So they're better than trying it. But I think the biggest thing is using those metrics of like how much water and scale weight and like what things look the best and then maintenance of that.
Yeah, that's the only way you can do it, man. That's the only way.
Yeah.
That's why using the scale during that time is important. That's why it's important to get AM weights and PM weights the last couple weeks. And that's why it's important just to watch and monitor all that stuff because that's the only way you can manage it. And you'd be surprised. A lot of people don't do that.
Right.
A lot of people don't use the scale at all when they're peaking somebody.
Yeah, I think even for, I mean, these are men's open bodybuilding, so there's obviously weight is not even a thing, really. But even in women's divisions where you don't have a weight, I think the one thing that the scale does help with is it eliminates some of that guess. Like if you look at someone, you're like, are they flat or are they spilled?
Yeah.
Are they flat or are they spilled? And then you have a metric that you can kind of confirm your thoughts with.
So you can tell which way you're going to push it. Yeah.
Right. So, and you would have to assume, I would assume that in a late show like that, it could probably go either way. Like a lot of the time you would probably think a little watery, but if you have the people that have a really high metabolic rate that are burning through during the day, they could be flat by nighttime.
Absolutely. We'll take Ian, for example. Ian was huge, but he would only, you would assume that someone as big as Ian would gain like 10 pounds morning to night. I would, because I always gained like 6 to 8, but he'd only gain 2 or 3 with all the food he eats and all the water he drinks or used to drink. So,
bowel movements, like all that stuff. So, and also like having that weight metric is good because even if you test, like I even say this, like even if you tested it prior, you're probably sitting on your ass all day. So like your calorie expenditure is like nothing. The
people that probably look the best are probably the people that are like me and stay up really. I would have done fine with it because I stay up late.
You're like,
I'm just
this
coming
is
to
my
10
rhythm.
PM, I'm coming to life.
Yeah, you're like, I'm just peaking.
Yeah.
That's
so, but yeah, that is a great point. That was a great point by that person because that is a problem. I feel like, and I guess they don't care. There's no reason that they can't put that prejudging either Saturday morning or first on Friday night, right at 7, because they're going to sell the same amount of tickets regardless. If people leave, who cares?
Yeah, I guess maybe they figure they'll sell like a Friday and a Saturday ticket that way for men's bodybuilding. But
but I'm saying just put their prejudging first instead of last on Friday night.
Right, 100%. Yeah, no, I totally agree. For finals, I can see that. Okay, it's the main show; it's going to be the last thing, whatever. But for prejudging, 100%. Yeah,
Smooth.
yeah.
So.
Cool. I remember I've done a couple shows that were 2 days like that. You don't really have those like amateur. You don't really have that anymore. But there used to be some that you have to do that. All
Well,
the
you were,
national shows.
yeah,
All the
all of
national shows. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, cool. Fielding questions. What do you guys got? Anything we can talk about? Talk about Matt's facial hair and hairline. Looking really good.
Oh,
Nice and
thank
edged
you.
in.
No, I need to get. I want to get those. I want to get this little. And I got stuff to replace back here.
You should do some like some designs on the side.
I used to when I was younger, but when you're 38, you don't do that anymore. I'd be.
I thought
I don't
about
think.
it. Why not?
Yeah, yeah. I guess I could maybe help me feel younger.
That's funny. Let's see.
I thought of somebody asked. I was trying to think. Somebody asked me a good question, and I was going to bring it up on here. Now I forgot. You guys think Hunter beat Curry on Saturday? He did. Yeah. Yeah. Probably both days he did. I think. Yeah. Yeah. Because Brandon was better on Saturday, but so was Hunter. But Hunter, I think, was better than Brandon at prejudging. So yeah, I think he should have beat. Brandon's. You can tell, like, how Brandon, which granted he was supposedly in the hospital and whatnot. Who knows? The food poisoning fairy got him. You can tell that he just doesn't have that same like full blown huge hanging roundness anymore. So, and Hunter, I feel like was better. So yeah, I think Hunter should have beat him.
Probably especially like by virtue of like hams and glute conditioning.
Yeah, yeah. His whole lower half. Yeah,
Brandon's quads look like they had no separation.
yeah, they didn't, and his hamstrings and glutes didn't either. So, and even but like what I'm saying is like even like his arms are starting to go down, which I don't know if you guys have any theories on that. As people get older, why is the first thing that happens they lose limb size and then the midsection is bigger?
I think they lose leg size first.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah. And then arms, and then the stomach
Do you
goes.
think it's? I think it's probably a combination of things. One, like training ability to train a certain way probably is part of it, but also I almost wonder if, especially in certain people, not all people, if there's a level of like neuropathy that happens, like nerve damage,
for sure,
that starts to happen, degradation from like high blood glucose for fucking years, and nerve tissue damage.
Yeah, I would think that would make the most sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of it. I can definitely think of certain people that it happened in, and then I think about like their dietary habits and stuff, and you're like, okay, well,
yeah.
Here we have a different question. Okay. Besides lifestyle factors, what subs you like to implement for HDL and LDL balance for enhanced athletes? Trey, you want to go first on this one since me and Matt have just been talking, then we'll chime in.
Yeah, Trey's gonna have a lot. Well, and he's gonna have a lot of good stuff.
Go for it.
I already know it.
So I guess it just depends. Like first, I'm gonna look at cycle design, so no AIs, no anything like that. I'm also gonna do a little bit more digging than just like LDL, HDL stuff. So I'm gonna look at particle size, that type of thing. But I think the first starters is just removing all of your AIs, and then also based on the person. It's like someone like me, my HDL is always like a 1 or a 2. Like no matter what I did. So me and Austin concluded like I just couldn't touch certain things. So like a TRT for me always had to be low test, and as soon as anything else was in there, that I was gonna have issues. But if we're like looking at that, then I'm going to diet. So good quality fat sources. So it's probably gonna be a lot of shrimp, a lot of wild caught salmon, pastured eggs, that type of shit. Coconut oil, ghee, macadamia oil, avocado oil, red palm oil, that type of stuff. And then in terms of supplements, I guess it would depend on like what are you determining is bad cholesterol. Like my numbers for markers for bad cholesterol is different than like what the medical system goes by. Because I really do think that our medical system doesn't understand the purpose of LDL and HDL. Yeah. It's not a matter of it's just high or low because of heart issues or anything like that. And honestly, I feel like cholesterol doesn't really reflect as much with heart issues in the first place. It's usually going to be insulin is high first. That's going to damage the arteries. And imagine like it's a straw. You damage that straw, now stuff's going to start latching onto it. So I think it's digging a little bit deeper. So if insulin levels are off, maybe you need to address that. If it's a metabolic syndrome type thing, maybe you need to address that. But if we're talking like straight like lipid levels, I mean, is the person stressed or not? Just simply being stressed is going to raise your LDL, because the job of cholesterol is to take one thing from one part of the body and take it elsewhere. And then if we're talking straight supplement, I'm usually going to go
the job of the particles is to take,
yes,
not
yes,
the carrier.
Correct.
So a lot of people don't even understand that that's LDL and HDL aren't types of cholesterol. Those are the carriers.
Yes.
Right. LDL particles.
There's other things in those are transporting.
Correct. Yeah. So it's not so much like whether something's high or low type stuff. So like that's just how I'm thinking about it. But if we're thinking about like straight up supplements, I mean, I'm usually going to go like aged garlic. I would say most of my enhanced guys, if I notice there's a lipid issue, maybe aged garlic, maybe curcumin, if I think it's necessary. Like if I see iron levels are high or RBCs are high, so maybe I'm gonna put that in there as a
you like using
iron chelator.
You like using niacin ever?
I like using niacin, but it has to have the flush in there, which most people are babies about because they get upset if they get a little bit flushy. Like I think that's a good one. I think citrus bergamot is a good one. I'm just more so looking at the person overall. Like it's not like, hey, your lipids are high, here's 30 different supplements. Instead, I'm looking as a whole. So if I see insulin resistance is off and blood glucose is off, then I'm probably going to go citrus bergamot. If I notice maybe let's say this, maybe they have looser stools and I notice blood glucose is off and lipids are off, maybe I'm going to go a berberine, because berberine, maybe there's some hydrogen-based bacteria. The berberine is going to work a little bit on that. If I notice maybe they're a little bit more plugged up or anything like that, maybe I go aged garlic. So I guess it really does depend on like the scenario, because I'm big about not just throwing 30 supplements at them, but instead what supplement is going to take care of what. So instead of dropping 30 supplements in there like a bomb, why can't I just use a machine gun method and shoot multiple different things with one or two supplements? That's kind of how I'm always approaching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So Matt, you brought up a good point too about, so when you look at lipid particle size, which I'm not saying you guys have to check this, but when you check it, and I did a video on my YouTube on this a couple weeks ago, LDLP is particle and LDLC is LDL cholesterol. So you have a carrier within the cholesterol within the carrier. But as to Trey's point, when you're looking at cardiovascular risk with LDL, you have to have risk factors that will damage the vessels, right? So like insulin resistance, inflammation, stuff like that. And then damage equals adhesiveness, sticking, plaque, right? But I think the one other thing I'd probably mention on there too is the liver is going to be huge in total cholesterol metabolism too. So like a lot of time people they really underestimate the power of the liver here, because they're maybe looking at liver enzymes or like, I'm not using any methylated orals or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But they're eating lots of food. They have a high amount of just things that their body has to detox. So like liver support goes a long ways in controlling that overall cholesterol profile. So, supporting bile acid, right? If you need to, even just like straight bile acid via TUDCA, right? Looking at phases of liver detox, so like liver is going to be huge in there. And then like Trey said, looking at the other risk factors as to determine if that cholesterol is even a concern, I guess, is my point. So
because I don't know if you want to go this, maybe you don't want to go this deep into it, but I mean, there's different types of LDL, like there's ApoB and LPA, and there's oxidation that matters. But in the grand scheme of things, what you're trying to say is if LDL are cars on the road and your arteries are the highway, blood glucose is damaging the highway. So you want that under control. The greater damage there is to the arteries, the greater chance there is of those cars crashing LDL into the arterial wall and sticking and staying there, which are going to cause your blockages. And those are the LDL particles that oxidize. So we want to mitigate all these things. But if you have if you're not having blood sugar control issues, this is the importance of mitigating that stuff. If you have that stuff under control, then everything kind of just runs through smoothly, and you shouldn't have to worry about it.
Right. I mean, for example, not a lot of people are getting calcium scores and tests done, but
Yeah.
I've seen a handful of them where people do have high cholesterol but no plaque.
Yeah,
Right?
and that's
Because
why. Probably because their blood sugar is okay, and they probably have low ApoB and low LPA.
right. So you just and I think it gets confusing because if you look at there are a group of people that say like cholesterol is not a risk factor of cardiovascular disease, and the other groups like if you have high cholesterol it is. But the easiest way to think about it is if you have high cholesterol, and I'm saying like exaggeratedly high LDL. So we're talking, I'm seeing people 250, 300, really high LDLs. All you're doing is putting more cars on the road.
Putting more cars on the road. Yep.
Right. So now it's like, yes, there might not be plaque buildup, but if there is damage on the road, there's more cars that could potentially crash type of thing. So as a percentage, it does bring you at a higher risk.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, that was a good question.
Yeah, and androgen levels matter. Like pretty much, the interesting thing is I sent an article to a couple people the other day. It showed that it was talking about essentially androgen use. It was testosterone they did in the study, but we'll say just androgens and the mechanism by which the lipid profile changed when you got on androgens. So it was essentially a specific enzyme in the liver that altered lipid metabolism, right? One dose of androgens altered the lipid metabolism pretty much acutely, and then it almost instantaneously returned to normal when it was ceased.
Yeah.
So, of course, like being at reasonable dosages more often than you're not is also another, risk factor. Like if you're blasting all year, all the time for years on end, then read between the lines.
Yeah.
So, but I think that a lot of time, we're talking about cardiovascular disease. There's really like a number of straws that have to break in there. A lot of the time, the renal function's compromised, so that's putting more pressure on the heart and more water retention. So there's normally like a number of variables that are off.
Yeah. I mean, blood pressure. Blood pressure is another huge factor, obviously.
Right. Because if you look at the issues that you see with the heart issues in bodybuilding, they're probably more so related to like heart failure type issues than they are purely plaque buildup issues.
Yeah.
Right. Not always, but the majority of them.
Failure. I don't know that most people even understand what heart failure is. That's your heart. Your heart is measured in how strong it can pump with an ejection fraction. So heart failure means that it's just weak. It's not pumping strong like it should. So it's not pumping blood around like it should be.
Right. So looking at EF.
Yeah.
That's what for sure.
That's what like people don't understand. That's what an echocardiogram for. That's not an EKG is something completely different.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have any other? What is this? They like the car example. Matt beautifully stated.
Oh, thank you. Well, that just always made the most sense to me. I stole that from somebody. I can't remember who, and it made the most sense to me.
Oh, I like it. It's good. That's solid.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Somebody's got to ask something. Nobody wants to ask anything.
Those were
like the two. Yeah, you have like
those
the
were
two
good questions, but
like the two smartest people in the industry on here to answer questions about the
y'all.
body. Two smartest being you two.
You had the. I don't know. You brought up the best example though. You dumbed it down the best.
That's because I'm the dumbest. I've had to dumb things down to make sense to myself.
I'm trying to think of the. Oh, shoot. Let's see. Where is this at? I think I missed one. Hold on, I'm scrolling through here. I think one of your clients was on here earlier, Trey, too.
Which one?
Down 20, down 23 pounds.
Oh yeah, Chris.
Nice.
It's a good client.
Do you have any more people competing this year, Matt?
Yeah, I have a girl competing this. It just never stops. I have a girl competing Saturday, and then 2 people the week after that. And then I didn't think I was going to have anybody doing nationals, but now I have, I think, 3 people doing nationals. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have a bikini client. Okay. I know that the term volume is pretty misused, but why do you guys think that low volume style of training is being seen as the proper way to train as of recent years? I don't know if that's necessarily true, but
That's what, I don't know, because everything's cyclical, and that's what people are preaching now for the most part.
Man, dude, that's 100% it. It's like as much as people don't want to acknowledge it, everything's a trend.
Yeah.
And it's like
hang around, bro, you hang
else.
around this long enough, like we have, like people are all like, all these newer age coaches are all about low test, high primo, high masteron. They're all about slamming the DHTs. They don't use EQ. This is just keep it shrug related, sorry. But as an example, like people are doing that, and people have been doing that overseas forever.
Right.
It's all like what the Europeans did in the 80s and 90s, and just it's new and it's sexy, and watch in a couple of years or 5 years, everyone's going to be slamming androgens again.
Yeah, and everyone will be back to training whatever,
Jay Cutler.
Yeah, well, someone else down here, Mr. Olympias and Olympians have trained high volume style, which there are plenty of examples of them. I mean, you could say there are examples that have not, but, Jay Cutler trained probably pretty high volume, I think. So I don't know. I think like anything else, the research is always difficult. Like I had a really good, probably one of my favorite lives I did or chats I did on training, like the research and the variables was with Dr. Scott, because he has all that in the trenches experience, and he's like 20 years older than any of us, at least. Right. So, and he basically said, he's like, there's so much context. There's so much context in there. It's like we can put it together the best way that we can, but at the end of the day, it's all context related, because they're using in the research, they're measuring things like volume, so numbers of sets, and they're measuring things like intensity, minimum effective dose, like how much intensity do you need within a set to elicit a hypertrophy response, right? Even there, and that's just 2 variables. Dude, there's so much room for interpretation even within those 2 variables, and we're not even getting into all the nuance. Like we're just talking, you look at someone like Brad Schoenfeld, very respected researcher, has done lots of research. 30 sets of squats in a research study. It's like, and some of these studies are like to failure. I'm thinking, I think by set 5 I would be down to the bar.
Oh yeah. Well, if you're training to true failure, yeah.
Right. And and Dr. Scott had said it good too when we were talking about it, about like we had talked about this discussion of like all the ways that you can essentially define failure, because you have like mechanical failure, the bar, like it stops moving. That's measurable, but it's not, because it might stop moving because you're a pansy.
Most of the time, yes.
and then even then,
speaking of failure,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, even then, if you look at like certain movements, you take like a barbell squat, for example, which is essentially a freestanding hip hinging movement, but if my quads start to fatigue, I've got like 4 other areas that are going to compensate and add reps to my set if I've got the fortitude to do it. You know, my glutes, my hamstrings, my erectors, I'm going to be like doing good mornings. Like how long did I stand at the top of the rep and how many breaths did I take? I mean, I can do that shit for 5 minutes, you know? So it's just hard to define.
Yeah, that's the best point. But you know what people do got to stop doing when it comes to failure? Like when they get spotters and it's like every rep is a forced rep. That shit drives me crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's waste. It's a waste at that point. I mean, it's
they're like helping them. They're helping them on every single rep.
Yeah, I think basically what I have adopted in this, and I kind of just stick to it, is I pretty much what a set should look like is like I try to make all the reps look as similar as I can, you know, as far as speed of the rep. And I might stop on that last like slow rep. I might stop and take a breath and hit one more of those, but like that's the end of the set. And the other thing I'm focusing on is the speed of the reps should look about the same, but also the form in the reps. So like I gave that example of like compensating and stuff. Well, if I'm doing a squat pattern, I kind of want it to look, if I looked at it, I kind of want the path to be the same on each rep, you know, so I'm not like, if it's quad focused, I want it to be quad focused. I don't want it to be whatever else. But also I think that people, when you're doing that, they do start making those micro adjustments in their form really early in the set because it hurts and they don't want to stay in it. So like when we're training in the gym, like one of the cues that I always use is like, stay on it, stay on it, stay on it. And that's like, right. And that all that is just a reminder to stay on the target muscle through the set. And what you'll find is you're probably going to do about 5 less reps than you normally would get, but you're just going to create tension in the right places. I don't know. It's difficult, but over time, I think you find where where you lie in that spectrum.
What was the question? Why are we talking about this?
They just said, why do you think that low volume is being seen as a proper way to train?
Oh, okay.
But you said it was a trend.
Yeah, it's just a trend. I like it's. You want to know what works the best? I still feel like is a mixture of both. So like how Meadows style.
Yeah. Well, I used Scott Stevenson as an example because literally, like, if you look at if any one-off training program, that's about one of the better one-off training programs you're going to find because it does intermix different variables in there, metabolic work and straight sets and blah blah blah. Because we know that different stimuluses do elicit a response. Like we know like 5 reps and 30 reps can also elicit a response. So it's just you should do a little bit of everything.
But what people fall into is they start using intensity multipliers on every single set of every single movement. And once you go down that rabbit hole, like that's you can't. The only thing you can do to get better from there is to pull way back.
Yeah, but you know what though? I think if you are actually able to go in the gym and do that, 99% of people probably aren't hitting those basic tenets of like creating tension on the muscle and training hard enough. Because I sure as shit know I can train just about as hard as anyone, and there's absolutely no way that I could do an intensity technique on every movement
5 days a week.
No way.
But here's the thing. I made when I was doing my podcast, I made a reel on this, and then there's like all these trolls, these like kids that don't know anything about bodybuilding. I talked about that because I trained with Nick Walker and I trained with Brett Wilkin. Like I've trained with these guys. And the biggest thing I noticed, I said there's a genetic component to recovery. Recovery, not in the sense of like, there is one sense of recovery, like a body part recovering in time for the next session.
Muscle recovery.
Yes, but what about your nervous system?
Right. That's the biggest.
Like what I noticed.
That is the variable.
So what I noticed with Nick and Brett is they can go full send every training session, 5 days a week, and they can do intensity multipliers, and they can do it every day, and they don't take deloads. You do that shit for 5-10 years, you're breaking things down and building them up. It's just simple math. more than
Yeah.
other people. And I don't care anybody says there's a genetic component. Of course, everybody that doesn't know shit about fuck is like, oh, it's because the drugs, you idiot. Okay, I'm an idiot, but you're not even comprehending what I'm saying. Okay.
Right. Yeah, it's the nervous system. I mean, the nervous system's the biggest thing. And I had to come to terms years ago. It's like I work way too fucking much and it cuts into my recovery ability and training. And that's just the reality of it. And that's just like, I just have to work. I just have to like do what I can do. If I sat on the couch and played video games and took naps and shit, I could probably do more.
You could probably do more, but you still wouldn't be able to do like
No.
Ronnie. Let's look at Ronnie.
No.
Dude, Ronnie would train three on, one off, his full body in 3 days. Everyone saw how he trained, and he did that for years. Like people that don't have that genetic capability, I don't care what drugs you're on, you can't do it. It's not going to happen. And if you are doing it, you're not training as hard as he was.
Right. And most of the time, androgens are just increasing, you know, the muscle protein synthesis and the recovery on the muscular side of things, not so much your nervous system anyhow. You know, people are like, you can train way more. I'm like, not really.
Yeah.
Not.
I think people are asking some stuff.
Yeah. Someone asked a little more basic question. What do you feel is the most common failure newer coaches have? Oof.
Oh, God. Talking in absolutes.
Yeah, I like that.
You have to. They don't have enough experience yet. They only know kind of what they've read and seen and heard about. So it's like you have to do things this way, or you have to eat this. You can't eat that. You can do this, but you can't do that. And anyone that talks like that, I would not listen to, because it's always depends. Yeah,
and I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. They don't always know any better. They're new. You know, I work with a lot of newer coaches too, and that's like I've always said, one of the things like people want to work with me, I'm like, what makes this mentorship different? I was like, I'm going to teach you how to think. That's the difference. Like I'm going to teach you all the protocols, all the fun, you know, all the shit. It's just I'm going to teach you how to think, and that's how you're going to become a good coach. Is just how to think. Like all the stuff that we talk about in our group chat, and you, me, and Trey, and some of the stuff, like we do talk about supplementation and this and that, but it's all situational. Like everything is situational. It's like, how do you coach a situation ultimately?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what takes time to learn. But you got to get, I think another thing too, is that people probably do things in the wrong order now compared to what they did before. Like when we started coaching, and even Trey, you know this, a lot of it was there's a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of just doing things and learning from experience. And now it's like we have so much information that we are trying to find the exact way from the start. And we're like, we want a plug and play. Like everything's like plug and play. And I'm like, okay, but no, you can't. That's not how this works.
Yeah. There is no perfect plan or perfect way to do things. It just doesn't exist. But everybody, with all the information out there, that's what everybody's searching for. And then it's paralysis by analysis. Then you're never even doing anything.
Yeah. Someone that talks about N1 education, they teach about that and types of periodization. Oh shit. Do you need to periodize? Yeah, probably. They didn't ask that, but I would say the majority of people are not going to do what Matt said and train 5 days a week with intensifiers and never need a deload.
Even that's situational. Like, do you need to periodize? I mean, maybe. I mean, I typically don't program deloads and stuff into my athletes because they just come up organically. Like people go on vacation, or people run into busier times at work, or your girlfriend cheats on you, and you're demoralized. Like all those times are times where they're just gonna organically happen. You know?
Yeah, because it's like the way that I always think about it is you could really, with training, what you want to do is, if you're training hard enough, you should probably run into an instance where you do need a rest at some point. If you're actually if you're actually overreaching a little bit, right? But normally those acute situations where you're like, good, bam, fatigue has dick to do with your training.
With the
It's almost
training.
always something
Yeah.
environmental,
Yeah.
right? Because we're not operating like that. It's not like we're going 1 week 5 sets, the next week 30 sets, right? It's
Yeah.
that it's so generally if there is fatigue accumulating from training, it's a subtle thing that happens over time. And so yeah, hypothetically you can pre-program stuff, but normally they're going to pop up
Yeah.
unforeseen.
One thing that works well, the person that asked this is probably super regimented. So like with my people that are like that are like robots, their stress is always low, bodybuilding is their life. I'll just make them two microcycles. So I just kind of wave it.
Right.
So you can either sprinkle, you just have to you like sprinkle the intensity multipliers throughout 1 week, and the next week maybe I don't have any, or I'll have a little bit in both weeks. You can kind of do it like that, and that way they don't ever run into that wall, you know?
Right. Yeah, and you and periodize it, purposely. But like you
Yeah.
said, most people that's probably 5% of people. Most people, it's almost always going to be like they lost their job or something,
Yeah.
or fucking whatever, you
Whatever.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Or
hard.
like my guy that updated me today, and he works in an oil field, and he got called out to the field. Like, all right, well, periodization, whatever.
Yeah.
That goes out the window.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any more. What times? We'll take maybe one more on here. Trey, do you have anything?
On the periodization?
Or just anything?
Anything.
Matt's
What's
hairline?
on your mind? I know you have a lot on your mind.
The periodization stuff, I just do it based on them. Like it's usually, here's my update, I'm like, we'll take this week off type of shit. It's
Right.
never, I mean, I have a bodybuilder now that might compete in March, and I literally just said, hey, take this week off. Your body looks tired. Refeed the next 5 days.
That's usually what I say too. Don't go to the gym until you feel like kicking the door in.
Yeah, like it's usually like that. And then if you go back to the new coaches thing, because obviously y'all been doing it. I mean, I'm approaching 12 years of doing it, but I have made all the mistakes where I had built a roster up in 2019, 2020, and then I thought I was big hot shit and got super arrogant, and then I lost everyone. Because the biggest thing was I did not know how to talk to people. And I think for the newest coaches, it's actually knowing how to talk to people. It's not being so militant, like you need to eat your damn food, otherwise you suck. And I think, at least for me, that was the biggest thing I had to learn. Because I knew the X and Y's and everything. I knew how to do all that. But it was just coaching people, not...
Coach the person, not the process.
Yeah, I would say that, or like, now it's like kind of protocol block and all that crap now. Like, oh, here's my lab work. I need 30 different supplements, and I need to raise this guy's testosterone. And then you're totally missing the point of why his testosterone is off in the first place. So I think it really is like either getting too complicated for newer coaches, or like Austin mentioned, they're trying to find a secret, or they just don't know how to talk to people, because most of the coaches are mid-20s, early 20s. I would say the newer ones are. That was also during shutdown age where no one was talking to anyone, and they don't even know how to actually have a conversation. Like, I'm sure if we were to stop any of these newer coaches in person, they probably couldn't even have an actual face-to-face conversation. They'd be on their phone like, oh crap, what do I say to this? Let me pull up this study or my document from Austin.
Help.
Yeah, let me pull up my document from this and that coach to say what's the answer to this question, because no one actually has a real life experience. So I would say that's the most common.
I love that. You made me think of something. What we spend a lot of time doing that I know a lot of other people don't spend a lot of time doing is changing with clients, I'm saying, is getting them to shift their perspective on things.
Sure. Yep.
Getting them to raise their expectations, teaching them what feedback is relevant and what isn't. Just overall changing their perspective and their perception of how this all works.
Yep. It's you can see it a lot when they start, and it's the same thing with the coaches, because the person was asking about coaches. But a thing that I'll notice that, like, when you get that the update from that type of client, and it's like 43 pages long with 5 relevant points, maybe. You know, it's like as you teach them the things that are relevant and how to think and how to process information, a really beautiful thing happens, and it's like, okay, now you're seeing what you should be looking at. And it's the same thing with the coaches. Like sometimes if I'm working with them, let me see your intake process. Let me see your check-in form. And I'm like, no, change this, get rid of this. Like because the people, and they also don't understand their demographic. I'm like, do you really think that the people you're working with should be looking at these things or doing all these things?
Yeah.
You're new. You're a new coach and you're working with like first-time competitors or Gen Pop. Why is their check-in, 13 pages long? Like, why? You're enabling this behavior.
Yeah.
You're creating these people,
Yeah. No, that's exactly right, man.
I tell you,
Exactly
my absolute favorite clients are just ones that are willing, like they're willing, but they don't know anything. They're willing, but they're moldable.
Yeah.
It's the best. Like it's the most perfect client you could ever ask for. They know their way around the gym, they can train, blah blah blah, but they're willing, but they're not fucking worried about what everyone else is doing. They're not sending me 3 social media posts a day from like, what do you think of what this guy's doing? What do you think of what this guy's doing? Hire them then.
Oh, dude. Yeah, don't get me. Yeah, I won't talk about that. I don't really have anybody that does that anymore.
Not really.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. But yeah, the coolest ones are, man, I have a guy that's probably late 20s, early 30s, new dad, just did his first show. You know, those clients that are talking about perception, like his perception of stress is just like from the minute he wakes up, it's just like all day long, just stress, which is most people, because most people feel like they have this list of tasks that they have to do, and it's one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, and they just feel like they can never sit down. They can never. He was that guy, and I've got him to like completely shift how he views everything, and just seeing that happen for somebody, and he's like, I'm just so much more present. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I'm a better worker. Like, just because I got this little thing to unlock in his head to just view things differently. And now he's good, like that's the coolest stuff for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
cool, guys.
Guess what? And then guess what? His body functions.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing real quick. Somebody said Masters Nats 40 plus. I'm not 40. Chill. Calm down there.
Was it Chris?
Yeah, Chris. And I wouldn't, nothing, I don't mean this to be offensive, but I wouldn't ever do a Masters show.
Hey, you know what? I will.
You can. Like I said, no offense, but like, I don't know. When you came as close as I did so many times, I just couldn't, I don't know, I wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be the same. And I don't care about getting a pro card anymore either anyway. So like, if I'm going to go to do it, I'm going to do nationals and get my ass kicked. I don't care.
Yeah. I'm gonna stoop all the way down and do Masters.
You're gonna do it?
I don't care. But I also didn't get second in nationals, so there's that.
Well, I didn't get second either. I got third, but I got third twice, and I got second at USA's twice.
So, yeah.
Anyways.
Well, guys, I'm going to cut it off here. I will repost this, and I'll tag you guys.
Okay.
Sweet.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good to see you. Talk to you later.
You guys have a good week.
Okay, you too.